Lacrosse community, my name is Ryan Berns. I'm the founder of the Lacrosse Leadership Institute. It's our mission to empower all those that love lacrosse, to recognize the skills you gain from the sport, to ultimately live your best life possible. Today, we're so fortunate to be joined by Mark McNeill, hailing from Maryland, currently out in San Antonio, Texas, making great progress of growing the game, developing it with his high school team out there, as well as his club team that he's coaching currently. Mark is a PLL archer playing at the highest level, and he was able to play at UNC as well. Mark, before I spoil too much of your lacrosse journey, can you share with our community that's not quite aware of your story? How'd you get into lacrosse in the first place?
Okay, yeah. Hey, thanks for having me on. But yeah, would love to share that. So I'm from Annapolis, Maryland. So that I don't know, that says a lot. Lacrosse is huge there. That's just what people do. So I got in it because my older brothers and my neighbors were playing it. So that's what people were doing. So I decided to do it. But yeah, Annapolis, Maryland. Went to St. Mary's High School. It's a pretty big lacrosse. Pretty big lacrosse school, right? They have a very strong tradition of successful programs and successful players. After that, I got the opportunity to go ahead and play at University of North Carolina. Played football and lacrosse there as well. I was drafted by the Bayhawks in the MLL. Did that for a few years, and then once the PLL started up, I got picked up by the Archers and have been with them ever since.
Mark, it's so neat to be able to see your journey of lacrosse, starting in a hotbed, playing for one of the top teams at every single level, and now you're going back and coaching. Can you share a little bit about what you're doing now in terms of the coaching realm?
Yeah, so I've been spending a lot of time coaching. So I recently moved to San Antonio. I've been down here for about a year. I'm coaching at St. Mary's Hall. It's a pretty small private school in San Antonio, and we're just looking to make strides. We're growing the game in San Antonio. I also coach club. So I have coached several summers with Nation United, which has been an incredible opportunity. For those who don't know, really the mission statement of Nation is just getting more diversity into lacrosse. And being a Black male, growing up in Annapolis, and being one of the few Black players on every team that I've been on, that touches close to home to me. So I'm really excited to be a part of that, and I'm just proud of that organization.
Well, it's great to hear, Mark, that you found something that aligns with your values, and ultimately you can make a difference and show others that they belong at on the field, at the same table, whatever that looks like. Throughout your experience playing, though, or coaching, do you have a pinnacle lacrosse moment, or maybe a couple?
Oh, that's good. Yes, I would say the highlight. It would have to be college. It would have to be like my college days at UNC. So growing up, I knew from middle school or elementary school that I just knew I was going to play lacrosse in college. That was just my goal. And, I didn't really know about professional lacrosse really until high school or college. But that was never really a goal. But it's such an honor to be able to continue to play. But just my first game as a freshman, I think we're playing Robert Morrison. But that is probably like the pinnacle of my career, because I think of all the years of sacrifice and hard work, and then to finally make it on a roster, an ACC lacrosse on a roster, and actually get to play in my first college game. I think I look back at that and dang, even if I never played another game again, I was like, I felt like I made it, because it's just a life goal, a dream that I got to realize. And a lot of people don't get to realize their dreams.
No, because it's so hard when you have that vision or that dream to actually put in the work. And you mentioned sacrifice to actually get there. Can you share a little bit for our viewers that are younger, if they have the same ambition to play at the highest stage? What are some of the sacrifices that you went through, or what are some of the things that the youth have to do now to play at that high level?
Okay, so I feel like when I came up, not that I had it a little bit easier, but it seems that lacrosse now has grown. And I look at my skill set now, it was my skill set back then versus what it's being produced now. It's night and day. The competition now is just incredible. Kids are doing insane things at such a younger age. But yeah, to talk about the sacrifice, time, right? I felt like growing up, especially in middle school and high school, putting in that time, going those extra shots, staying late after practice, just always having a stick in your hand. I think, we know that summer lacrosse is really big in getting recruited. I think of the sacrifices there, like not only the sacrifices that I made, the sacrifices that my family has made to put me in that position. Is ultimately, like, during the summers, you're at lacrosse tournaments, there's no family vacation. You're missing family events. You're just, like I said, I think the biggest sacrifice is your time. And I think it's even more difficult now for kids to get recruited because, and you probably know better than I, but it seems that lacrosse has been growing at such a fast pace, and it seems that everyone is playing lacrosse. I'm in Texas, I'm in San Antonio. I didn't think lacrosse was big here, but I got here and realized that everyone and their mother plays. Like it is a big thing. And so now that there's more people, and because really with these teams, like what are they probably taking, 10 to 12 per year? You're going to have to really make sure that you stand out, make sure that you are different. And so, yeah, it's one thing to be good with the skills and be a good lacrosse player, but you have to make sacrifices in the classroom as well. Like, are you taking care of your grades? Are you a good person off the field? Are you just doing the right thing? So that's what I would say.
Well, Mark, you said a few big things that I just want to highlight. It's integrity first and foremost, doing the right thing on and off the field, getting good grades, being a good person. We know that so much time goes into anything that we do if we're going to be successful. And it's not just ourselves, it's the community that we surround ourselves with, our family, everyone else. When you think about all the sacrifice, then ultimately achieving your goal, was it worth it?
100%, 100%. I wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, maybe I'm a dreamer, right? I feel like the world can be so brutal and beat you down, and I feel like our dreams are so special. They can keep us going, they can motivate us, and so to really to realize your dream, to have that dream come true, I think it's one of the most beautiful things that we have.
I'd have to agree. I think the idea that we can ultimately become whatever we want to, if you put in the time, you have the support systems, you have people that are able to promote you and lead you in the right direction. And I'll use that to pivot to the leadership aspect, which is really the premise of our conversation. What does leadership mean to you, Mark?
Oh man, to me, leadership means doing the right thing, even when it's tough. I think if I can put it at one sentence, I think that's it. I've been really blessed to be on some teams with some great leadership, and it makes a difference. Especially when you play at high level, every team is good, right? Every player is talented, but what separates those good teams, or what separates those individuals, is their leadership, right? I think when we talk about leadership, it's not necessarily about you, it's about like us. And so again, I would say, just for me, leadership is just doing the right thing, leading by example. I know I hate to use lead and leadership, but that's what I would say.
You talk about making the right choices or doing the right thing, even if it's tough. Do you have an example of a time when you were leading and you had to make a tough decision, or is there an example of one of the leaders that you really admire, a tough decision that they had to make?
Oh, I would say, like the sacrifice. One of the things that I think about, I was very immature at the time, but I went from an offensive midi to a defensive midi, and in college, and I fought it. I didn't want to do that. That's just something I just never imagined me doing. I was not in my plan, and I fought it, and I fought it, and I fought it. And I eventually, became that D midi, and it wasn't through choice, but I think about like the sacrifice. Like, I think about, hey, like if you truly want to accomplish this goal of winning a national championship, which we never did, right? But if you truly believe that is your goal, you truly want to do that, like, we think it's best for you to be here, and you're gonna help us the best. I don't know. That's what I think about some leadership. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just kind of.
I think that's a big point, though. It brings up the fact that you're also willing to sacrifice your own vision. You said it was never in the plan. It was never part of those dreams. You made it to the top level of a collegiate lacrosse player, and then you're asked to do something different. You're asked to challenge who you thought you were going to be. And I think that's the prime example of life as well. We have all these visions and dreams of what we're going to do, but then we get knocked in the face and we have to decide, okay, what am I really going to do? Am I going to keep fighting this, or I'm going to go forward and actually progress and go where the team needs me? And I think those are the best leaders, whether your title is leader, captain, manager, whatever that is, it doesn't really matter. It's at the end of the day, what you do and that integrity that really speaks volumes and allows the collective whole to be better.
Right. 100%.
So Mark, taking all your lacrosse experience and then delivering value to San Antonio, and we think about the West Coast, we're here in Arizona, there's not as much of a presence of the professional lacrosse athlete and those coming in here. And I know the Black Lacrosse Alliance is a big thing that you're part of, as well as Nation Lacrosse. Can you talk a little bit more about, for starters, Black Lacrosse Alliance, and then how it compares with everything that you're up to, including the diversity inclusion efforts that you're making?
Yeah. So we started BLA, Black Lacrosse Alliance, and I think of leadership. I should have said this before, but Jules, he was the initiator, the creator of BLA, Black Lacrosse Alliance, and I think that was a prime example of leadership. But this was summer 2020, and there was a lot of things going on in the country, and we just felt that it was really important to give our perspective, right? In lacrosse is just, let's call it what it is. Lacrosse is, has a stereotype as a wealthy white sport. And, all of our BLA group, most of us have been the only Black players on our teams, from youth league, from high school to college, and even professionally. And so it was important for us because, I don't know, you kind of it's like you kind of have to see it to kind of believe it. And so we thought it was really important for us to come together and have this collective voice to give hope to Black and brown players who are, want to make it to these high levels of, college or professional, but don't feel like they can, or don't see people that look like them. And so when I think of, BLA and then say Nation United, or just me moving to Texas, I think of it growing the game, right? So yeah, in Texas, we want, even since I've been here, I feel like the game has grown. People are talking about it more. And I think that goes hand in hand with, say, adding more diversity into the sport. And so I think of like San Antonio, and demographically, it goes hand in hand.
Yeah, it's a neat thing about these emerging markets of lacrosse, if you will. Like on the West Coast, we've got Pat Harbison out here, and it's great to have him impacting the Arizona community. And I know you're out there in Texas, and with all the growth, we get to tap into the cultures and communities that are out here. And they're not all your WASP, if you will. It's multicultural. And I think the idea of bringing everyone together is so important. We were talking with London Booker last week, who played at Rutgers and is now coaching in the NCAA. And he spoke about just the fact that his big mission was FCA. The coach's job is to love everyone. The player's job is to love the game. And that just speaks volumes to me, regardless of where someone's coming from. We got to go. We got to love. How are you going about growing the game right now, or imparting your knowledge set to the community that you're in?
I think for me, the biggest thing about growing the game is just showing people how passionate I am, showing people my love for the game, because really that stuff is contagious, right? People, and just kind of educating people about the history of the game. I was really surprised, and I took it for granted that people don't know the origins of the game or its rich history, right? They look at who's playing it now and don't know who started the game, where the game originated. And so again, what I think, just growing the game, educating people, showing my passion, showing how much I love the game, because lacrosse I love it. It's such a great thing. But in my opinion, let's use lacrosse, let's use sports to shape and build young men, right? I think that we can use lacrosse to build character. And I think it sounds great, but I think kind of doing that helps the game grow. Since I got to my school in San Antonio, I kind of gave my kids an option. I was like, hey, I met with all of you and you all said that you want to win. You want to be the best player that you want to be, right? We have a couple options. We can have a lot of fun, or we can compete and try to get better. And the response that I got from parents was unbelievable, because they're like, oh man, like this is what our kids needed, like to be held accountable, to have some discipline, to have something to work for. And so I think that in itself, it just kind of helps to grow the game. It's more than just a sport, but we can use this sport to become better people.
Well, Mark, you're a huge ambassador for the game. And I think that's one of the highlights that I want to bring up is not only are you passionate, and we can tell with this conversation, you're a fun guy, but you're hitting on some of the critical parts of life. Again, I think that accountability, the discipline, just having character, those are three major core values that anyone who ends up being successful has. And like you said, lacrosse can be this mechanism for the youth to be able to learn those skills. Ultimately, it lets them be better and better people, because they're better in people. They're wanting to give back in the same way you and I love to give back. Is there anything else you're doing consciously or subconsciously to try to build character in your teams?
Oh, I put a lot of responsibility on our captains and on our teams. So luckily we're senior heavy, but I'm not one that's gonna beg or plead for you to give effort. So I think by putting that onus on our captains or on the players, I think that helps motivation. I think that helps instill discipline. I think that just helps self-accountability, self-motivation, because as you know, in the real world, no one is going to make you do the right thing. It is up to yourself. You have these choices. It's up to yourself to make the decisions. And so, I do that consciously, and there's probably some other subconscious things that I do, but that probably, I would say, sticks out the most. I put the responsibility on the team, because ultimately that's I can't play on the field with them.
Oh, I wish we could. It would be
Bro, I know, right? Like I tell my players, hey guys, the cleats are always in the car. Don't
I wish we could go back. I say the same thing along the lines of, hey, we can put together drills that are going to get you better in different areas, but if you're walking through it, you're not going to get better. Do you want to be better? And I think what you're saying about self-accountability, it's treating these young men like men. They're, at the end of the day, we're raising adults, we're raising productive members of society. And if they're going to enter the real world, they have to understand it's all about them. That's why I preach effort and attitude. I think those are the only two things we can really control. Whatever else happens, happens. But as long as you gave it your best and have a positive attitude, it seems like you can get through a lot of adversity. And those are some of the skills that we focus on. Mark, I know we're wrapping up on time. Are there any last thoughts you have on lacrosse or leadership that you can share with our group?
Nothing comes to mind right now, but I always preach, it's more than just lacrosse, it's more than just lacrosse, right? Again, it's about building character. And I know I've been kind of repeating myself, but what I like to do is I like to know about my players, like what their goals or dreams or desires are, because a lot of my players, I want to work for a major corporation after college. I want to be an attorney. I want to be a doctor. Like all of these things, right? But those things, to accomplish them, it takes hard work. It takes sacrifice. It takes self-accountability, motivation. So although they may not want to, although this may be the last time they'll ever touch a stick, hopefully they will leave with the skills or more skills that they need to have success in life, regardless of what they're doing.
I know they will, especially with the attitude that you have about this, Mark. It's contagious not to smile around you. So thank you so much for joining our community, sharing your lacrosse leadership story. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and I hope you have a good day.